Alright, another day, another video. Today, I'm back at it with another PC build video. We're going to be picking out the parts for the ultimate 3080 killer build. And this build is going to come out to a cost of $1,500, which is $300 less than your normal 3080 build, and yet will still offer performance that can keep up with the 3080 and sometimes even exceed the levels of performance that the 3080 is giving. Alright, so I make PC tech videos just like this one, so a sub would be massively appreciated. We're gaining on that 200 subscriber mark, so I genuinely think you guys can do it. So if you're new around here and you do like PC tech content, then subscribe to the channel. Really helps me and motivates me to make more awesome videos. Anyways, without any further ado, let's get started. Now before we begin this build, I want to tell you guys that this is an all AMD build featuring the Ryzen 5000 series and you guessed it, the RX 6000 series GPUs. So first, let's start by picking out the CPU, which is the most important part. Now, as I said, we're going to be using AMD's Ryzen 5000 series, and what other CPU to go with than the Ryzen 5 5600X. Coming in at a price of $299, this CPU is rumored to beat the levels of performance that the 3800X is giving, which is an 8-core 16-thread processor. And if it actually does that, that's some serious amount of performance for $300. And this also beats Intel in gaming, so there's no more of that my Ryzen system is slow because it's not good at gaming. Anyways, for $300 you're getting 6 cores, 12 threads. It's got a boost clock of 4.6 GHz. Nowadays, modern AAA titles use as many cores as they can for your CPU in order to give you the best gaming experience, so that those 6 cores and 12 threads are really going to benefit us. Yes, $300 is expensive for a 6-core 12-thread CPU in 2020, but you need that extra clock speed when you're pushing frames to such powerful GPUs. So the CPU of choice for today is going to be the Ryzen 5 5600X, taking $300 from our budget. Now that the CPU is out of the way, let's move on to the motherboard. Now the motherboard we're going with is one of the most popular motherboards out there. Now before we go to that, I want to talk about the chipset that I picked and why. Today we've gone with AMD's B550 platform, and let me tell you why. X570 is too expensive for our budget. I mean, for a $1,500 PC, you can obviously get an X570, but by getting a cheaper board that almost has the same amount of premium features, we're saving some money which we can allocate towards other parts in the build. So I've gone with the B550 chipset because it's the best middle ground chipset you can get, and for the price, it seriously offers a lot of performance. We're talking PCI Gen 4 speeds with PCI 3.0 general purpose lanes, while the B450 chipset has PCI 3.0 and PCI 2.0 general purpose lanes, so that extra bandwidth is really going to help us considering the fact that we're going to be using a PCIe Gen 4 supported CPU. Alright, now the motherboard we're going to be going with is none other than the B550 Tomahawk from MSI. The Tomahawk is relatable to a very budget focused brand, and it's also offering a lot of performance for that money. I mean, you can think about the B450 Tomahawk, the B350 Tomahawk, very popular boards, especially the B450 Tomahawk, and now MSI have come at it again with the B550 Tomahawk. This thing is kind of steep at $179.99, but that extra $60 compared to the B450 chipset gets you a lot more. First up, it gets you the advantages of the B550 platform, which is of course PCI 4.0, and then just the feature set in the board is really amazing. You get way extra fan headers compared to the B450 Tomahawk. You also get more ARGB headers to push the RGB in all of those fans. You also get more USB headers and all of that good stuff. You also get 4 DIMM slots, which is kind of the proper amount of DIMM slots that you need to have in 2020. Anyways, this is the best budget board, and MSI in general are the best brand to go for if you're going for the budget category of boards. But for expensive boards, it's a whole another story, but that's for a whole another video. So the motherboard of choice is going to be the B550 Tomahawk, taking $179.99 from our budget. Now talking about the RAM, nothing special here, just your usual G.Skill Ripjaws 5 3200 speed kit with a cast latency of 16. This is a 16GB kit that comes with 2 8GB sticks and is gonna cost us $61. Now 3600 is the sweet spot for Ryzen, but you can overclock Ripjaws kits very nicely, so you can easily get this up to 3400, and if you're lucky, even to 3600. And for the price, this is offering a lot of stuff. 3200 MHz, CL16, amazing timings. So yeah, the RAM kit of our choice is the G.Skill Ripjaws 5 16GB kit. RAM's out of the way, let's talk about storage. For storage, we're going to be going with the usual SSD plus hard drive setup, since if you want to go with a full SSD setup, that's going to be kind of expensive even in 2020. First, let's talk about the SSD, and I've gone with the trusty old Crucial MX500 with 500GB. Now 500GB is more than what we need from an SSD point of view, because we're only going to be storing the OS, but I went with 500GB because you can store your OS, some of your normal programs like your browser, and just generally programs that you want to open very quickly, and you've also got that extra headroom to store some of the most games you play, some of your most favorite games, so you don't have to wait a ton of time before loading into your game. Another thing is DRAM cache, and a lot of budget SSDs that like this SSD costs $60. A lot of budget SSDs like this don't come with DRAM cache, and this particular thing can slow them down to the speed of a spinning disk, which we obviously do not want. And with this price, it comes with DRAM cache, 500 gigs, and I'm totally satisfied with this. So Crucial MX500 it is for the SSD, taking away $60 from our budget. Moving on to the hard drive, which is, of course, you guessed it, the very popular Seagate Barracuda 2TB drive from Seagate. This is an amazing drive for the price of around about $50. Alright, now for the part you've all been waiting for, the GPU. We're going with none other than the RX 6800 XT from AMD. This thing can beat the 3080 in some of your AAA titles, and it also matches the performance of the 3080 in most of your titles. And in some titles, as I said, it can beat the 3080 by 10 or 15 frames, so you're seriously getting a lot of performance. Now let's talk about some of the key specs in this GPU. It's got a boost clock of 2250 MHz, which is way more than what you'd get in a normal graphics card, and will seriously help to push all those frames in 4K. The second thing is you've got 128 megabytes of infinity cache that is going to help, again, push all those frames when you're gaming at 4K with no problem. It's also got 16 gigs of VRAM, which is 6 gigs more than what the 3080 is offering. And last but not least, this is very power efficient compared to the 3080, running at only 300 watts, while the 3080 can pull upwards of 350 or even 380 if you overclock. So this GPU is priced at $650 by AMD, and it's again $50 cheaper than the 3080 and can beat it in some types of AAA titles. So you're getting a lot of value for money here. Anyways, 6800 XT in our cart, in the parts list, GPU's out of the way. Let's talk about the power supply. Now the power supply is one of those really important things because it's what's powering all your expensive stuff in your PC. So you've got to go with a good one. And we've gone with none other than EVGA's BQ 750 watt power supply, 80 plus bronze rated power supply. Alright, to wrap up this build, we have one final component, which is the case. And this is also very important because you want some good airflow. And you guessed it, I've gone with the Cooler Master TD500 Mesh. Now you might have noticed I am recommending this case in almost all of my PC build videos. That is because I cannot recommend this case enough. It's giving you a lot of features for the price of $100. You're getting 3 RGB fans with a full mesh front panel. You're also getting a dedicated fan controller in the case. You're also getting a very good I/O, very good power supply shroud. I could go on and on with the list. Also cable management, very good to build in. Yeah, overall a very nice case to build in with some really good aesthetics. So case is gonna be the Cooler Master TD500 Mesh, and that pretty much wraps up our build for today. And as of the time of filming, we have a total price of $1,498. I nailed the budget, didn't I? So for this price, as I said, getting the performance of a 3080 PC at $300 less, considering that a normal 3080 PC would cost you $1,800 if you want to prevent any kind of bottlenecks. If the prices change, I will put it up here when I'm editing, but if they don't, then the total price was $1,498 along with some shipping, which you will have to pay, of course. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, leave a like. If you loved the video, a sub to the channel would be massively appreciated. As I said, we're gaining on that 200 mark. Would really be appreciated if you could show your support by subscribing to the channel. That's it for this video. I'm Nikhil, you're watching NTT, and I'll catch you in the next one.